Okay, so we would just try to understand how do we now use this particular Hyper-V. So as we have seen with respect to the Oracle VirtualBox, Hyper-V is also a hypervisor that is from Microsoft. So hypervisor is nothing but the layer that is on top of hardware which makes or helps you with respect to the virtualization. So there can be a host operating system on which there can be a layer of hypervisor, and on top of it you can go ahead and install your guest operating systems like any other operating systems like Ubuntu or something like that. So this Hyper-V actually, this particular Hyper-V comes built in as a part of Windows 10 professional operating system. You have to remember that this Hyper-V is a feature which is a part or made part of operating system itself. And I'm saying that it comes with Windows 10 professional. It does not mean that it may come with Windows 10 home edition. My machine is Windows 10 professional edition, and that's the reason that actually I'm trying to able to run this particular Hyper-V on my machine, and we will try to understand how to create a virtual machine using this Hyper-V. So let's go ahead and get started with Hyper-V. Before that, I would just like to show you about the operating system version, a specific thing that I was saying. So I have opened up the system information where you can see my Windows edition is Windows 10 Professional. So with respect to this, Hyper-V is already installed is what I am saying to you. So you have to check your machine whether your machine also is Windows 10 Professional, or because if it is Windows 10 home edition, it may not have. Windows Server operating system like 2008 has, and Windows 2012 also has. You can see the processor is also i5. So i5 is capable of hardware assisted virtualization. So we have to understand that Hyper-V actually would run and check whether my hardware also is, or the hardware on which this particular operating system is running has the capability to do the virtualization. So there is a hardware level support also to that. So now let's see how does the Hyper-V looks with respect to the kind of application that it is. So we will start the application of Hyper-V. We can just search it as Hyper-V, and there is a desktop application called as Hyper-V Manager. So clicking on that actually opens the Hyper-V Manager. You can see that this is how it looks. On the left hand side, it gives you your machine name. My machine name is Bit7PC, and the center part is nothing but the virtual machine lists which comes up here. So as you can see that the interface pretty much it looks the same as that of Oracle VirtualBox. So we have already seen this particular Oracle VirtualBox, and it's more or less it looks like the same. And the left hand side it gives you your machine name, and the middle it gives you the listed virtual machines. On the right hand side it gives you the settings or the functions that can be used with respect to those particular virtual machines which are listed. So if you see what we are trying to do here is we will try to use Ubuntu 64-bit OS this time to create a virtual machine. So what I'm saying is my machine has Windows 10 operating system, which is again 64-bit, and we are trying to create or run an Ubuntu 64-bit operating system. So we start with a new command, and we say that create a virtual machine. We type in the name of this particular virtual machine. Maybe say that you just want to name it as Hyper-V-VM1, and click on next. And there are two choices that we are given, the generation 1 and generation 2. You can go ahead and try to find more about what the differences of generation 1 and generation 2 are. I'm selecting generation 1, which gives me capability to run a 64-bit guest operating system on my host operating system, which is Windows, and I set the memory to 2 GB. My new Ubuntu machine should make use of 2 GB. I'm not just connecting to any LAN. and this particular page actually gives me that it is going to create a virtual hard disk file, and it is going to store it or in the location at that particular place. And the size, the maximum size, it says that it can grow up to 64 terabytes. The initial size will be 127. And then we go to the next screen, and we can select when we want to use actually the operating system. There are three options. You can see we can use a bootable CD also. So but since I have downloaded an ISO file of 64-bit Ubuntu, the ISO which I already have downloaded, I am going to use this particular file. So you can actually go ahead and download this particular Ubuntu 64-bit from the Ubuntu website, because the different flavors of Ubuntu are available. I have selected that I would like to download the desktop version of it. So I have now pointed it to this particular ISO file, and I click next, and I will just click on finish to do away with this particular dialog box. And you can see that this is the particular machine that is going to get created with this configuration: 127 GB hard disk, 2 GB RAM, and now we can see that particular machine name is being listed, and the state of it is seen to be off. So the machine is ready. The virtual machine is created already, and it is pointing to the ISO, which is 64-bit. We just need to do a start in order to start running this particular virtual machine. So what we do is we can either click the start at the other end, or we can just right click on this particular listing Hyper-V VM1 and click on start. You can see that the assigned memory is something which we have already assigned, and when we click on connect, it just starts another window, and we are able to see this particular Ubuntu, which will start now booting up. What I would suggest is you can ignore all these errors which comes up at this point in time. We can see that since we have not configured network, it just did not give us any networking at this point in time, but it just is trying to boot up the Ubuntu version using the ISO. So that is what we are trying to do. Also, we need to remember that when we are trying to do this with Ubuntu, actually Ubuntu gives us two options. One, we can go ahead and install the OS, and one, we can just say try Ubuntu. It means it will not install this particular operating system on the virtual machine, the virtual or the hard disk file that is being created. It will not install it on that, but it would only let you try the Ubuntu. It will boot up the Ubuntu operating system like a live operating system and give you all the features. So you have to actually go ahead and select the second option, and you have to get it installed, so that whenever you start the machine, this particular operating system loads up. And it would take actually quite an amount of time in order for you to get this particular operating system installed. So that's the only reason I'm doing try Ubuntu, just to make you feel that how it is going to look. So Ubuntu is ready now, and these are the Mozilla Firefox applications which you can always run. It will perform. So we are going to settings, and we are trying to get some details. From the details, you can see that the OS now is 64-bit. So you can understand that your operating system is a 64-bit operating system. On the top of that operating system, you're running a virtual operating system, which is also a 64-bit operating system. So that is happening only because your operating system is capable of creating or giving you this support of creating a 64-bit operating system. So the turning off looks something like this. You just have to click on turn off, and if you turn off, the machine now will get turned off. So whenever the machine is turned off, it is in the same state. It preserves the state of that particular machine. If you have installed the operating system, that is there, and if you start again, it actually loads up that particular operating system. So it's like after you have booted from one operating system, it gives you the facility on that particular operating system. You can start another operating system of your choice. So you can again go ahead and get your operating system started by the same process. If you say start, it just starts your operating system. So what we now need to do is we need to understand a little bit of what is meant by a host operating system and what is meant by a guest operating system.